what you need to know.
From the Goldberg-Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg-Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 6 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Portland Trail Blazers fall to the Phoenix Suns last night, 120-109. Kevin Durant led the way for the Suns with 31 points. Portland returns to action against the Utah Jazz at Moda Center. 7 o'clock tip time. Pregame coverage begins at 4:30 right here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Potentially final Civil War game is set to kick off Friday at 5:30 down at Autzen Stadium. New college football playoff rankings are out. Washington leapfrogs Florida State. They are now in the top 4. Oregon remains the highest-ranked one-loss team at number 6, trying to bump them up a spot. At number 6, Oregon State falls to number 16. Coming up, we'll talk to Tyson Alger, friend of the program from the I-5 corridor in hour number 3. But it is Thanksgiving prep. What's going on with Jonathan Smith at Michigan State? The college football playoff scenarios. RCM starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's time for Justin Myers to wake you up here on Rip City Mornings, 620 Rip City Radio.
And a very happy Wednesday. It is RCM. I'm your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brendan is safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Wednesday. Oh, it is here. It is here. We have made it to Wednesday of Thanksgiving. Brendan, I don't know about your, I don't want to say it's not your body clock, but it's just like there is a natural rhythm to the week. And when you get to a short week, maybe it's just because I love Thanksgiving so much. And maybe it's because we're going to go Thanksgiving, Civil War, cutting down Christmas tree. Like, I got a lot of fun stuff planned. Maybe do a little wine tasting in between, maybe put on my snooty wine tasting clothes. But maybe it's because I got a lot of fun stuff. And I'm very, very happy, very thankful, very appreciative of all the fun stuff I get to do coming up in the next couple of days. But, man, these days just drug on. Just drug on. Maybe it's the anticipation of, like, man, let's get that bird in the smoker, because I throw it on the pellet smoker. Let's get that bird in the smoker. Let's get the mashed potatoes whipped up. Let's get the gravy going. Let's get the drinks a-flowing, and let's get to the feast that is Thanksgiving weekend and extended. Because, man, these 3 days have taken, seems like it's taken a week and a half just to get through 3 days. Am I the only one? Is this because I'm so excited about Thanksgiving?
Oh, yeah, Justin. I'm sorry. I feel completely the other way around. These last 3 days have flown by. I feel like a chicken with my head cut off. So,
okay.
Yes,
interesting.
Very different perspective.
Very different scenario between you and me. I've just been pumped up. I'm so pumped
it's
for tomorrow.
It's kind of a busy week with, football, too. So, a lot going on this week.
Yeah, I got a lot going on, too, Brendan. I got to get a turkey all gussied up and ready for the smoker on Saturday, and then going to make the journey down I-5. Now, you got to work at the game. I have to just...
That is a bit of a difference.
It's a very big difference. See, I don't know if the average fan, like, does understand, like, when you go to a game, like, the work that is involved. It is a workplace. There are things to be done, as opposed to when I go to games, I'm like, I'm just living my tailgate dream. It's going to be cold on Friday, but no rain. No rain, no wind. Perfect tailgating weather. Get all bundled up. Sun's going to drop down. We're going to kick off potentially the final Civil War. Don't know. Is it potentially the last game that Jonathan Smith is going to be coaching for the Oregon State Beavers? Interesting quotes from Coach Smith. We'll talk about that coming up a little bit later on in the program. Also, so much on the line where you look at the college football playoff rankings and some interesting scenarios potentially afoot with regards to Oregon and Washington. Washington right now control their own destiny. They control their own destiny. They win the next 2 games. They're going to the college football playoff. There's no way, shape, or form they're being kept out. The committee proved that by leapfrogging them over Florida State, because Florida State has Florida and then Louisville. Washington is Washington State, and then potentially a rematch against Oregon. But also, crazy scenario where they face Arizona. Even if that happens, if Washington gets Arizona again, Arizona will be a top 15 team. They'll beat them. They'll get in no matter what. I saw this scenario the other day. And Brendan, I am not easily spooked. I am not easily freaked out. Because I have always had kind of the old school mentality of how the tiebreakers have worked in the Pac-12, and apparently they have changed them over and over and over again. Back in the day, it was very simple. It was conference record, and then if conference record didn't work, you would go to head-to-head. If head-to-head didn't work, well, then you would just go to overall record. Simple as that. You want to talk about the potential, and we don't know what has happened, potential butterfly effect of a game that we did not know was going to be of consequence? Let's go back in time, shall we? Because this is a real thing that I didn't even realize because I'm an Oregon homer and I have a one-track mind. Do you remember we came in here after a certain triple overtime game between Arizona and USC going like, what is Jed Fish doing? He is on the road. He has got USC on the ropes. They go for two. Take your shot. Potentially knock out USC. Get that win because at that point, Arizona was, I think they were 3-3 at that point. If they were 3-3, they were 3-4.
They still only have 3 losses, so 3.
Yeah.
No, that would have been 2.
No, they were
2 losses because that
they
was
only
their
had 2
third.
losses. They were 3-2
Yep.
at that point in time. Just lost to Washington the week before by 7, and they're at USC, and it's like, you got nothing to lose. Turns out they didn't know they had a lot to gain if they would have won that game. Because do you know if Arizona would have went for 2 and gotten it back in October against USC, if Arizona would have gotten that 2-point conversion and beaten USC and then continued to run roughshod through the league the way that they had, you know what the tiebreaker would come down to between Oregon and Arizona if both of those teams were to win this weekend?
The win over Oregon State.
No, because if Oregon were to win and Arizona were to win, both would have a win over Oregon State. It would come down to Cal versus UCLA.
Really?
Yeah. Former Oregon player, former Oregon coach, playing in what is a game for bowl eligibility for one. It would come down to Cal and UCLA. Oh, boy. Glad that's not happening. Really glad that's not happening. Now, here's what I do wonder. And also, I will say this also as an Oregon fan right now. It was a short-lived conference commissionership, shall we say, from George Kliavkoff. And ultimately, that conference commissionership led for him to flee to the mountains of Montana, grow a beard, and just be like, I can't do it anymore. You guys brought me onto this sinking ship. I tried to steer it in the right direction. It just kept sinking. I'm sorry. I went to Montana. I tried my best. But, Brendan, I will say, I'm thankful for George Kliavkoff for one thing, not for destroying the Pac-12 conference, not for ending potentially 100-and-some-year-old rivalry between Oregon and Oregon State. No. But I think you can easily say the greatest thing that George Kliavkoff did as commissioner of the Pac-12 was eliminate the Pac-12 North and the South. Greatest thing he ever did. And as an Oregon fan going into this week, got to beat Oregon State. We're going to talk about that, by the way. Some Oregon fans are a little 2 steps ahead. Some Washington fans are a little 2 steps ahead as well. I shall chastise and lecture Oregon and Washington fans coming up because I see some things on the X app that I don't like. But let me just tell you, thankfully, George Kliavkoff looked around at the Pac-12 and said, all right, all the best teams are in the North. Yeah, USC's down there, got it. But for the most part, for the entire lifespan of the Pac-12, every great team has come out of the Pac-12 North. There was like, what, one USC team? I think, 2017 that won the conference with Clay Helton. Other than that, it's been Oregon, it's been Washington, it's been Stanford, Oregon State these last couple of years. All of the good teams are in the Pac-12 North. And George Kliavkoff looked around and was like, yeah, we're going to end this North and South thing. 2 best teams are going to play each other in Vegas, regardless of if they're in the North. Thank goodness he did. Because if not, Oregon would have to depend, or Oregon would be actually eliminated. They'd be eliminated. Washington would have, with a win last week against Oregon State, would have wrapped up the Pac-12 North, and Arizona would have wrapped up the Pac-12 South, and Oregon would be getting ready for the Fiesta Bowl. It's a fine bowl, but it's not the college football playoff. So, tip of the cap to Jed Fish for not going for two. Tip of the cap to George Kliavkoff for switching up the North and the South and just getting rid of, you got to be thankful for things. This is the big Thanksgiving weekend. You got to be thankful for things. You wonder, like, Justin, why do you obsess so much about the butterfly effect? Because of these scenarios right here. If we just said, hey, let's not make any changes. Status quo. How are we doing? We'd be in a very different scenario going in. And for both Oregon and for Oregon State, because while it would be fun to win what is potentially the final Civil War game, the idea of potentially in one evening, Oregon State going into Autzen, ruining Oregon's chance at the college football playoff, ruining Oregon's chance at a Pac-12 championship, ruining Bo Nix's chance at a Heisman Trophy, and seeing a bunch of green and yellow tears, like, talk about an early Christmas present. So all that being said, we got a ton of stuff to dive into. Also, is that 8 in a row for the Blazers now? That eight losses in a row? This team can't shoot. They can't shoot. They can't shoot a lick. Now, they did shoot, what they shoot from 3 last night? They shot 45% from 3. Problem was it was combined with 43% from the field. And Shaden Sharp is in somewhat of a funk. The last 10 games. Now, I know he does one thing spectacularly every single game. It seems like it was a rebound last game or a putback or any of that. Last 10 games for Shaden Sharp, he has played 37 minutes a game. He is shooting 37% from the field and 30% from three-point and 81% from the free throw line. Now, maybe we're in adjustment period time, right? Because Shaden Sharp, this is the thing we have to realize. Whole picture, right, with Shaden. Because I'll be honest, last night, after a couple whiskeys, I was just like, does this guy stink? Then I woke up, shook off the cobwebs a little bit this morning, grabbed a cup of coffee, and tip of the cap to super producer Brendan, who's like, well, let's go back and look at some other guys. Anthony Simons, year 2? Is it year 2? First year in the rotation. Also weird time, bubble, and then no fans and all that stuff. Kind of shooting about the same. Also, with Shaden, I know he played last year in the tanking games and all of that, but this is really like his first season of meaningful basketball in 3 years? Because he did the bounce around thing at the charter schools, then went to Kentucky, reclassified, then didn't only practice, didn't play, then got drafted, and it's like, then played in a bunch of meaningless games last year. They played a handful of meaningful games, but then played in a bunch of meaningless games. Like, we're sitting here for the first time in 4 years. Hopefully this is just an adjustment period, as I talked about with Pounce yesterday. Growing pains, they're painful. Like, that's why they call them growing pains. It's not just an awesome show with Kirk Cameron, which, by the way, all-time classic. You're too young for growing pains, but it was a very influential show. Mike and Carol and Ben and whole family. But growing pains can be painful, and I feel like we're in an interesting spot with young Shaden Sharp, because right now he cannot put the ball in the basket, and that's troublesome on a team. It looks like Scoot Henderson's on the way back. That's good. Need to get these guys playing. We need to get these guys reps. But losses keep piling up. Keep piling up for the Blazers. They've now lost 8 in a row.
Like, where we talked about earlier in the week, Justin, like, are they, we don't think that they're the worst team in the NBA, especially when they get healthy. But like, just with the hole that they've dug themselves in, are they already destined for the lottery in November? Like, I know we knew that, but like, still, like, saying it out loud, like, is that where it's heading?
There's a couple of things with that. Wasn't it like Utah last year? Remember Utah last year where they were pretty bad the beginning of the season, but they had a bunch of young guys that played a lot and kind of they didn't make the play-in, but kind of made a little bit of run towards the end of last year. Markkanen started figuring some things out, and they kind of adjust. When they traded away Donovan Mitchell, it was like, all right, well, we don't have any good guys anymore. Maybe it's that, but on the other part, I know that everybody was all in on the tank and everybody's all in on the rebuild, right? Was it the old Chappelle Show skit, right? When keeping it real goes wrong. Not all tanks are guaranteed to bear fruit, if you know what I'm saying. Because while Oklahoma City is the blueprint, Detroit is the cautionary tale. Because Detroit was like, yep, get rid of everybody, draft young, let's go, and Detroit stinks. They stink. And they're like year 3 of their rebuild, and they stink. So it's interesting times. But you know what? We're going to choose to be positive and thankful today. Thanksgiving's tomorrow. I'm pumped up about it. As I say that, going to do a little lecturing. All right, I don't like to lecture. I don't like to get on my high horse. I'm not better than anybody else. I just have a louder mouth and a lot more energy. But I'm not better than anybody else. But I'm going to do some lecturing to both Oregon and Washington fans. You're going to hear what I have to say. We're going to have a family talk before Thanksgiving because some of you guys on the Twitter apps or the X app have been acting a fool. We're going to talk about what it is next, 620 Rip City Radio. You go back home and go to the old neighborhood bar just to do a little like Facebooking in real life. What does that mean? Well, probably more Instagramming in real life, but let's be honest. A good chunk of the reason why you're on social media is make sure you're doing better than your classmates were in high school. Right? It's like, boy, Kevin really put on some weight there, didn't he? The guy that used to like to shove me in a locker in 8th grade. He really put on some LBs, didn't he? That's why a lot of us are on social media. You do that in real life sometimes, too, on Thanksgiving, because you go back home and then you go to the old neighborhood watering hole and it's like, oh, how you doing? How you been? Oh, your life's a mess. Got it. My life, great. Walk out of there feeling like $1 million. But sometimes in all that, with all that family around, it's time to have a family discussion. And we need to do it here. I don't like doing it, but every once in a while, we got to have a family talk. Everybody's got to gather around and have the family talk. Brendan, did the Slaughters ever have like the family talk?
More so when I was a kid.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's usually when you're a kid, like not as an adult, but I'm going to attempt to do it as an adult. But like, yeah, when you're did you have the thing where it's like, I think my parents took this from an episode of Full House. There was an episode of Full House where they were having a family talk, and there was the talking stick, which was a wiffle ball bat, and it's like, you can only talk. Because other than that, Myers family, yep, would just talk over one another like I do to you half the show. Apologies.
Yeah, it was a little bit of organized chaos.
So my mom, like, they would invent you can only talk if you're holding the thing, right? I think it was a football. Like, if you got the Nerf Turbo, you can talk. If not, lips closed, shut in the mouth. Well, I got a big microphone, which is my Nerf Turbo, and you guys all have radios and internet, so you're going to hear me talk. So we got to do a little family discussion for both Oregon and for both Washington fans, because I don't feel like either of these programs are handling what has been happening these last couple of weeks all that well. Let's start, well, with my own. To the Oregon fans out there who believe that because you have beaten Arizona State by way more points than Washington did, because you beat Stanford by way more points than Washington did, because you beat Cal, because you beat Arizona State, all of these common opponents, you beat Utah by way more points than Washington did. That does not erase a head-to-head loss against a team. Stop it. You're making yourself look foolish. There will be potentially an opportunity to make up that loss in Las Vegas in a week and a couple of days. Potentially. You got to take care of business first. But to the Oregon fans who are sitting there on the X app, who are just like, well, look at Arizona State. Look, compare those scores. Look at Stanford. Let's compare those scores. Look at Utah. Let's compare those scores. There's one score that matters. There's one. And you are down by 3 still. Still down by 3. Still missed the 45-yard field goal. Still went for it on 4th down to the most ridiculous times, especially one at the end of the first half where you gave up those 3 points, right? Still didn't get the job done in Seattle. Had the opportunity, had the lead in the 4th quarter, didn't get the job done in the 4th quarter. So stop with this. I believe it's the transitive property, right? Well, this team and then this is like, no. There's a head-to-head. They played each other. There was a scheduled game. It kicked off. 60 minutes of football were played, and Oregon walked off of that field down 3 points to the Washington Huskies. That has to matter. I do not care that Oregon put up 42 points in the first half with Bo Nix having 6 touchdowns against Arizona State, while Michael Penix did not have a touchdown against Arizona State. Don't care about it. That is irrelevant. You know what is relevant? When you play each other. There's a schedule. You played each other. You lost. Now, there is a way to avenge that loss, and that's what's great about the way college football has kind of set this whole thing up. I'm not always stoked about change in college football, but when it benefits my team, I shall be a hypocrite. You know, I've not been a fan of the NIL. I've been a fan of, especially the NIL combined with the transfer portal. And one time, Chad Doing, friend of mine, host of Rip City Drive, came to me and said, Justin, you keep saying you don't like NIL, but without NIL, you don't have Bo Nix this year. I go, Chad, I'm a hypocrite. Because when it benefits my team, at least I'll admit it. I don't like it, but you know what? If it's going to benefit my team, great. All the more better. But to the Oregon fans out there who think that, hey, Oregon is better than Washington. Nah, there was a game. Also, Washington went down on the road to Corvallis and beat Oregon State. Oregon still got to do that. Haven't played the Beavs yet. Still got to do that. I know what the point spread is. Don't care. I've seen far too many point spreads in this game. All right? Don't give me all this nonsense about Vegas and the point spread and all that stuff. I've seen too many point spreads in this game. Can only imagine what the 2016 point spread was. Can only imagine what it was. I've seen far too many. Don't care about it. It is a cliche in sports, but it is true that when you face off against rivals, you throw out the record books. By the way, for Oregon fans also who want to believe that Washington is the true rival and Oregon State's not, and it's like, yeah, when Washington stunk, they never had their come up and beat Oregon game. Never happened. Oregon won 12 of those games in a row because Washington stunk. It wasn't until Washington actually got good. It was not a throw out the records game. It was a, hey, who's playing better football at the moment? Whereas I know plenty of times and plenty of seasons where Oregon State was not the better football team, where Oregon State had 3 wins on the season going into that final game. And guess what? It didn't matter because you throw out the records. That's what a real rivalry is, which is why it's a darn shame that it's going away. Maybe more on that later on in the program. But while we're here, continuing to lecture the Oregon fans. So your common opponents it's a secondary evaluation. I don't know where we got this whole mindset, not just with Oregon, but with everybody, right? Texas versus Alabama. Who's the better team? I don't know. I saw them play. They played each other. Texas beat them at their place. They're the better team. They just are. I know that's Alabama, and I know that's Nick Saban, and I know that is when they play the Dixieland Delight there. Have you ever watched the video of the Dixieland Delight video? It's awesome. Take 5 minutes of your time. Watch Alabama Dixieland Delight YouTube. Anyways, I saw them play each other. Texas is better. They went into their place, week 2, punched them right in the mouth. Well, I look at strength of schedule and resume. I was like, yeah. That's all secondary evaluation when you don't have a head-to-head. Games have to matter. Wins have to matter. Winners get sprinkles. That's why we say that on this program. Wins matter. You can't just go all, spreadsheet nerd on me and just like, well, if you look at this calculator. We threw out the computers. Back in the early 2000s, we threw them out. Kirk Herbstreit on College Game Day took a laptop and chucked it as a symbolic message to the committee, or there wasn't a committee back then, to all of college football saying, get these computers out of the game. Now we want to bring them back? Well, let's let AI figure it out. Let's look at the resumes. Let's look at the strength of schedules and predictability quantifier and whatever. No. The best football is old school football, which is you step on the field, we kick it off, and we play ball for 60 minutes, and we find out who's better. We just find out. We don't have to guess. We don't have to do any math other than adding. But we don't have to do any of this nonsense. So stop with the, if you really look and you eye test, yeah. They played each other. They lost. That's the end of the discussion until potentially, you play each other again. Because much like in bowling, you get a do-over. By the way, tip of the cap to whoever invented bowling. All right, what's the goal here? Roll a big, heavy ball, try to get 10 pins down. What if I don't get them all down the first time? Try again. Just give it another shot. How about that, bud? What if I don't get it? Well, then we'll move on. But, we'll give you one shot, and then we'll just give you a do-over. Very rarely in life do you get do-overs other than in bowling. Oregon could potentially get one in college football. All right, so there you go. That is my piece. That is my lecture. That is my family talk to the Oregon Ducks. Now, I am not a member of the Washington Huskies family, but I am married into it. So I feel like I am uniquely qualified to lecture the Husky fans. They're going to love this, and I'm sure I've got a ton of Husky listeners. But Washington, in 2011, we welcomed in Colorado and Utah into this conference and created the Pac-10 into the Pac-12. And in doing so, they played a game at the end of the season between the Pac-12 North and the Pac-12 South champions. That game happened to be between Oregon and UCLA, and it was at Autzen Stadium because I know it because I was there. I was there in 2011. All right, we've been doing this for 12 years. If you go 12-0, much like in the game of horse, you got to prove it. That's just how it works. We've been doing this for 11 years. So stop with if we go 12-0, it's so dumb to have to play Oregon again. No, not dumb. It's on the schedule. Has been forever. Not forever, but for 12 years. Guess what? Every other conference has to do it as well. Georgia's going to potentially go 12-0. Guess what they get? A chance to play Alabama. Oh, we're Georgia. We've won 2 national titles, and we've gone 12-0. Do you hear them complaining about it? No. And by the way, Washington fans, reverse it a little bit. Reverse it a little bit. What if you went to Autzen Stadium, lost by 3 on a last-second missed field goal, came back, ran roughshod over every one of your opponents, only to then have Oregon fans say, you know what, I think they should just cancel the Pac-12 championship game. Would you be like, yeah, you know what, you're right, 12-0, that means something. No. It's on the schedule. It's the format. It's what happens. In the NFL, if you are like the number 2 seed in the NFL, you don't go like, I don't know if we should be playing wild card games anymore. No, you have to. That's the way it goes. My beloved Atlanta Braves won 104 games in the regular season, Brendan. 104, more than any other team. Still had to play a stupid 5-game series against the Phillies. Because that's the format. You don't just get to go straight to the World Series if you win 104 games. I think you should, by the way. So to the Washington fans out there, like, you know what, if 12-0 with a win over Oregon, they should just cancel that game in Vegas and just go to the college football play. Like, yeah. It's been on the schedule for years. It's the way we do business in college football, that if you are in a major conference and you win said major conference and you are a potential college football playoff winner, guess what? You still got to prove it. Playing horse with your brother in the driveway, he hits a ridiculous running hook shot that he hasn't hit all day to give you E. It's like, yeah. You got to prove it. I don't believe you can hit that again. That's what we do here. So stop with the whining and the complaining and 12-0 should be good enough. Yeah, it's not. Because Georgia's going to go potentially 12-0, and that's not good enough. They got to beat Alabama. Now, the Big Ten, Michigan or Ohio State, one of those teams is going to go 12-0, and I think they get Iowa. By the way, how about Iowa? Remember early in the season we were joking around about Kirk Ferentz and they can't score, and his kid's the coordinator and he's got to score 35 points a game. Ho-hum, Iowa just sitting at 9-2, maybe potentially 10-2. But yeah, they're going to get Iowa, and whoever wins the Big Ten.
Like, I'm sorry, Justin. Like, no disrespect, but like,
no, let's get some disrespect going.
Iowa's wins.
It's a family talk.
Iowa's wins aren't even impressive. I mean, I'm sorry. When you beat, let's see, when you
lose.
Brendan,
but I don't know. What are you talking about? Oregon's going into this ridiculous gauntlet that is the Big Ten next year. They'll be lucky to win 2 games.
Yeah, that's
what I keep hearing.
That's foolhardy. I mean, it's you look at, sure, 9-2, but just okay. Let's look. A few games that are concerning. The first time you played anybody good in Penn State, you lost 31-0.
Smoke showed, yeah.
Okay. Beat Michigan State, not real tough this year. Purdue, Wisconsin, but lost to Minnesota. I know, put up a whole 10 points in that loss.
They didn't have enough fleck coins.
You beat Northwestern, who really doesn't even want to play football.
That was at Wrigley Field. Beat them at Wrigley Field, 10-7.
I beat Illinois by 2. I mean, I hate Iowa's brand of football so freaking much. Sorry, you triggered me a little bit, Justin.
You know what? I love it. I love the passion. But, like, you got to have a little, like, it's like Thanksgiving. I know I look down upon the cranberry sauce. But, like, you got to have a little, like, something different You know?
Hey, I am the king of doing things different
You
on
gotta
Thanksgiving, Justin.
Oh,
You know this.
You got to have like a mac and cheese or a green bean casserole. You can't just have the same stuff where it's like Iowa's, like, it's good for college football. Like, they're going to go. What are they favored against Nebraska this weekend? It's a 2-point game. Nebraska's favored by 2. So who knows? But you got to have like a team like I just like that team exists.
I don't. Like, they're bad for college football, Justin. I'm telling you.
But they're going to potentially, if they beat Nebraska, who knows? If they beat Nebraska, they're going to go 10-2, and they will score over 30 points once. One time. That was a 41-10 win over Western Michigan. Other than that, they scored 24, 20, 26, also 0 against Penn State, 20, 16, 10 in a loss, 10 in a win, 22-15. They haven't scored 4 touchdowns in a game since September. They're 9-2. How about it? Find a way to win. Anywho, point being, though, back to my lecturing of Washington. Texas is potentially going to go 11-1 with a win over Alabama. With a win over Alabama, maybe the best win in the regular season, right? Washington's win over Oregon, but that was at home. Texas went to Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama. Might be the best win in college football this year. And guess what Texas has to do? They're going to play Oklahoma again. Why? Because it's big-time football. You got to prove it. You got to prove it. Let's just say that Florida State, now without their starting quarterback, beats Florida this weekend. Do they just get to say, hey, we're 12-0, our quarterback's hurt, we're just going to try to find a backup, and we'll see you in the college football No. You got to play Louisville with a backup quarterback because you got to prove it. Nobody in Tuscaloosa or nobody in Tallahassee is complaining. So stop with the whining, Seattle. This has been my lecture. Oregon, you got to do something first before you start talking about how, we're better than what? No, you're not. Not yet. You beat Oregon State and you beat Washington in Vegas, then you can maybe say you're better. But right now, you're not. And Washington, 12-0 is nothing until you win in the big game. The big game's in Vegas, and we just decided that. Is it for money? Is it a bake sale? Yeah, it is. Guess what? This is what we like sports in America. One game, down to the wire, let's get it on. Right? The UFC, like, you ready? Let's get it on. Because that's what we want. We want one definitive championship game. Right, we mentioned a couple of Big Ten schools there. There's another Big Ten schools being talked about here in the Willamette Valley. Interesting rumblings going on between Corvallis and East Lansing. It's
fake news, Justin.
We'll discuss next.
Fake news.
620 Rip City Radio. it's not just potentially family secrets and rumors that are going to be talked about around the Thanksgiving table this weekend. There's also some coaches' rumors swirling around. It's that time of year, right? Because while a lot of people are maybe looking ahead to the Pac-12 championship, if you're an Oregon fan or if you're a Washington fan, the rest of college football, it turned in our gear on Saturday. It gets over. Yeah, there will be bowl games. Sure, there will be Meineke Car Care Bowls, and there will be Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowls, and there will be Sun Bowls and Alamo Bowls. But for the most part, you play your games on Friday or Saturday and wrap up the season, and then you have a banquet after you check in your gear. Somebody gets announced the MVP, somebody gets the Spirit Award, and we go on about our lives without college football. It's kind of sad. But also, then the coaching carousel starts. And now the rumors are already swirling around. So let us talk about it. Let's debate and discuss as we go on campus. Here we go. All right, so yesterday on John Canzano's show, I used to work with John. Not afraid to admit that there's other shows in this city. Like back in when I first got in radio, I was like, yeah, you don't talk about the competition. Now it's like, there's the internet. There's social. Pretty sure we all know what's out there. So on John Canzano's show yesterday, head coach of the Oregon State Beavers looking ahead to what could potentially be the final Civil War, was asked about the Michigan State opening and potentially other jobs opening up. Jonathan Smith is at the top of, I think, a lot of lists, whether that is Michigan State, whether that is Texas A&M, even though I don't think it's a very good fit, whether that is Mississippi State, which I don't think is a better job, but his name is ultimately going to be linked because he took Oregon State from an absolute dumpster fire to the number 16 team in the country right now. Going to go to 3 bowl games in a row, and all doing it with one transfer 5-star, one transfer 4-star, and a bunch of 3-star guys. All the while just doing it with not a ton of NIL money, with not a ton of fanfare, just put his head down, nose to the grindstone, worked, built up a program. That's going to get you on a lot of lists. So, when asked about it, said, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have the full quote in front of me, but it was, I have an agent. My agent's job is to go out there and see what's out there. Like, they don't call me. They talk to my agent. Coaches have agents. That's their job. And I think he even kind of made a joke like, you better be out there. I pay him so much money. You better be out there. And said, I'm trying to be truthful here. And that was the clip that everybody kind of popped. Oh, not everybody. A lot of Oregon fans trolling Oregon State fans. Not our finest moment. But a lot of people clipped the, I'm just trying to be truthful here. I was like, what is that? Now, if you listen to the context of it, it seemed as though it was a jovial back and forth. I mean, I pay him so much, and he gets paid a whole. Like, he better be out there looking for deals. Brendan, let's talk to you. This is your coach. This is your guy. This is the leader of the Oregon State Beavers, looking to try to get a win and to crush the dreams of my favorite team. When you saw that, when you read it, when you listened to it, you have been adamant, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but you have been adamant saying, I don't think Jonathan Smith's going anywhere outside of the West Coast. That UCLA job, watch out for that one. But outside of the West Coast, he's never coached outside other than Montana. He's always
2 years, yeah.
He's coached on the West Coast. He's been in Boise, he's been in Seattle, he's been in Corvallis. Moscow, Idaho, too. Cannot forget. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, in the words of Michael Scott, it might be threat level midnight, Justin.
Michael Scarn? Agent Michael Scarn?
Shout out the deep cut of The Office.
Threat level midnight.
See, you had to watch, Justin, the season of The Office that you say is not so great to see that. So, one of the things, all that aside.
Yeah.
There's on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say the level of concern is like a 5. Now, I'll say this. I was sent a screenshot of the comments before I heard the comments.
There you go.
The screenshot of the comments is almost more uneasy than listening. When you listen to the full interview with John, you don't feel quite as nervous as you did if you were just reading it, Justin. And I'll say that my thought has maybe gone up a little bit, but I still, in my heart of hearts, do not see him leaving for Michigan State.
All right, so
that doesn't seem like the job that would be like the one that would take him away.
I said earlier in the show, I'm a hypocrite. I admit I'm a hypocrite, especially when it comes to benefiting my team. I'm going to try not to be a hypocrite here. If we come out and we say, boy, how refreshing was that Dan Lanning actually told the truth, right? Which was like, I'm not going, Jordan Belfort, right? I'm not bleeping leaving. I'm not going anywhere. I'm well taken care of here. I get paid a lot of money. I don't want to go anywhere else. My family is happy here. And everybody's like, Dan, including myself, Dan, that is so refreshing. Thank you for telling the truth. Thank you for not hemming and hawing or using it as leverage to try to squeeze a couple extra nickels out of Phil Knight's very large wallet. How refreshing is that? What a great clip. I'm not going to say that and then on the other hand go like, Jonathan Smith, would I believe him being truthful and criticize him for that? You have to. If you are a coach and you are in high demand, what if Michigan State comes back and goes, hey, Jonathan, $17 million a year? That's probably not going to happen, but if you don't pick up the phone, you don't know. Hey, $17 million a year. Probably not going to be the number. I just threw that kind of out of my head because I think it was...
that would make him the highest paid coach in the country.
Yeah, because I think Brian Kelly's at 15. But you know what I mean? What if Michigan State decided to do that? They're not. But what if?
I mean, I think you would have a hard time turning down the highest paid coach in the country kind of money, but...
You know what I'm saying? That's why you have to be... You have to keep your ears open, and that's why I'm not going to criticize a guy for being honest. Like, I got an agent. His job is to go out there and see what's out there. I decide where I want to be. He decides, you know what I mean? So, it's threat level midnight in Corvallis. Could it be potentially a distraction? I don't think so, but we like to play it up. Coming up next, we got the big three. We got Make or Miss. We have also got a Worldwide Wednesday, 620 Rip City Radio.
Here's what you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 7 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Portland Trail Blazers fall to the Phoenix Suns 120-109. Kevin Durant led the way for Phoenix with 31 points. Portland was led by Jeremy Grant with 24 points. Blazers now back in action tonight as they will be taking on the Utah Jazz at Moda Center. Good excuse to get out of the house. You got a bunch of family over, so you got to go to the Blazer game. 7 o'clock tip time. Pregame coverage begins at 4:30 right here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Civil War set for Friday, 5:30 kickoff at Autzen Stadium, Oregon. The number 6 team in the college football playoff rankings, the highest-ranked one-loss team. Oregon State, after the loss to Washington, fell 5 points to number 16. Washington leapfrogs Florida State. They are now in the top 4. Joining us in the third hour of the program, Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor will hop on to preview the college football playoff rankings and take a look at the upcoming Civil War. But the Big Three starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, coming up in 20 minutes, we have got Make or Miss. Coming up in 40 minutes, it is a Worldwide Wednesday. As I mentioned, Tyson Alger is going to join the show in the third hour. I say let's eat our vegetables all the time. Let's eat our vegetables real quick. The Blazers are there is such a talent gap between where they are at and where competitive teams in the NBA are. Some of that is injuries. Some of that is rebuilding. Some of that is these growing pains we talk about, but let's hunker down, kids. It's going to be a rough ride. You know, in the summer, we may have talked ourselves into, hey, it might be fun. And you know what? Come February, they might be fun to watch. I don't know. They might be fun to watch come February if they can get and then at some point stay healthy and let the kids run. You know what I mean? But right now they're dealing with injuries. Right now, they are dealing with growing pains. Right now, they're dealing with Shaedon Sharpe in not a humongous shooting funk, but definitely something to keep an eyeball on. The fact that he's shooting 37% from the field. Now, I know I'm kind of an old guy in this. Shooting over 30% from three-point land, but to me, Brendan, the bigger concern is the missing from the field. Seems to be a lot of lay-ins. Seems to be missing a lot of drive into the basket, and they're contested, but welcome to the NBA, right? Like, you're going to have to find a way to now, maybe that's just what has to happen until he figures out. And I think also it's unfair. Let me just say this, unfair. But how many years did we have Damian Lillard driving to the hoop and it felt like he never missed around the rim? You know what I mean? It's like guard in a Portland Trail Blazer uniform drives the lane, very rarely misses. And now it's like, it's the same thing. He gets off the ball fast, seems to take a step and a half, and he is at the rim, jumping it, and it's just like can't get the ball to fall in the basket. And that's youth. That's lack of experience. Hopefully it starts to come around. Hopefully it doesn't get in his head. But something to keep an eyeball on because 37% in the last 10 games, 39%, or I think 38% from the field on the season. That's down like 8 percentage points from last year. Now, last year was a different time for Shaedon Sharpe, but right now, that's my biggest concern. My biggest concern, I love the fact that DeAndre Ayton came out and tried to win the whole game by himself yesterday. First 8 minutes of DeAndre Ayton was some of the best DeAndre Ayton I've ever seen. Because he was like, yep, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to try to win this whole thing by myself. Now, ultimately, the Suns are just too good. They got Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, but I like that DeAndre Ayton's got that fire. He's got that competitiveness. Did you hear DeAndre Booker after the game? It was like, yeah, love that from DA. Needs to do it every game now. And it's like, good. Thanks, Devin Booker, for helping us out.
There were boos, as we expected.
As there probably should have been. I mean, breakups are never fun.
Okay, then.
Now, again, I will say this. DeAndre Ayton didn't go to the Phoenix Suns and say, hey, you have to draft me number one. They did that. You know, it's always funny, like the expectations of top draft picks. It's like, it's not like those guys chose that life. the Phoenix Suns chose him to be number one, and it was a little bit of a disgruntlement. Yes, Brendan.
Yeah, Justin, they could have picked Luka Doncic, who turned out to be pretty good. They could have picked Jaren Jackson Jr., who's been Defensive Player of the Year. Could have picked Trae Young. And
multiple-time All-Star, yeah.
This guy named Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was also available. So
it's tough. Look, drafting's tough. I think the hardest thing to do in sports is to hit a round ball and a round bat squarely. That's my man Ted Williams, and I will believe that forever. Hardest thing to do in all of sports. But second hardest thing to do in all of sports is draft. Whether it's quarterback or whether it's number one overall pick, sometimes you get LeBron. Sometimes you get Kwame Brown. Like, in what world is there something that happens so often, which is the draft? Every single year it happens. And that number one overall pick happens every single year. And boy, it can go from LeBron James, is LeBron James the greatest number one overall pick of all time? It's either him or Magic Johnson. But you can get from LeBron James to Kwame Brown. Maybe more Michael Olowokandi. Probably even a better example of a number one overall pick. Isn't that nuts? Like, the number one pick happens every single year. And we have LeBron James on one side of the spectrum, and we've got Michael Olowokandi on the other side of the spectrum.
Oh, Michael Olowokandi was better than Kwame Brown, right?
Kwame Brown played like 10 years in the NBA.
Okay, fine. The real worst number one's Anthony Bennett in 2013. When Anthony Bennett went to the Cavs in 13,
yeah.
I don't think
Is he still playing?
No. God.
No.
Gosh, no.
Wasn't he with the Timberwolves
Let's
for a while?
see. Old AB.
I forgot about Anthony Bennett.
Yeah, he was with the Cavs for a year before he's still playing in China.
All right, that's
but
good.
has not been in the NBA since 2015.
So he made it 2 years.
After being the number one
overall pick made it 2 years.
And that was, I'll say this, a horrible draft minus Giannis. So
yeah, what did Giannis go 14th?
15.
15.
So maybe CJ McCollum, but not an all-star. That draft was, it was Giannis and Rudy Gobert.
Was it the 2013 draft or the
Yes.
2012 draft, the one that Neil Shea was like obsessed with?
13. That was
13, where it's like every player from the 13 draft is like, yeah, 4 years later, want to play for the Blazers? Who's in that one that ultimately became a Blazer? There were like
Let's see.
3 or 4 guys, I think, didn't he?
Yeah.
Obviously drafted CJ.
Yeah, he was a real big fan of those drafts around that time. Let's pull up that draft class. So Victor Oladipo was there. The Blazers have been connected with him for a while.
Yeah.
Otto Porter was there. Cody Zeller, who, there you go,
Boom.
absolutely played for
Had
this
him
team.
come in.
Ben McLemore absolutely played for this team. He went number 7. Think that is it. Oh, Tony Snell.
Snell, he played.
was a Blazer for a
I was
hot
like, I
sec-
know there's one more.
for a hot
I knew there was a Kentucky guy in there somewhere.
Yeah, Alan Craft. Yep, it just keeps going, Justin.
He loved that 13 draft. He
And
just
it
loved
was
it.
a terrible draft, so that should tell you a little something about Mr. Big Haircut. But like Justin said, not always wrong, just wrong sometimes.
It is a fascinating thing to me that you can have, and it happens in the NFL too, right? It is the biggest crapshoot in all of sports, and it's the hardest thing to do outside of hitting a baseball, which is draft. Draft number 1. You got it. You get to pick first. Don't screw it up. And sometimes you can get LeBron James, and sometimes you can get Anthony Bennett.
Like in back-to-back years, here's the great example that Justin's making. In 2012, great draft classes, we know. Several guys who are still at the top of their game. AD, Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard. Okay. AD went number 1 in 12, Justin. The next year is Anthony Bennett.
Yeah.
What a just divergence of,
Yeah,
you know what I
Anthony
mean?
Davis is MVP.
Arguably, when he's healthy, one of the best big men in the NBA, probably.
Yeah, 100%. Half, like, fake champion, but still, he's got a ring. He's a fake champion, but it was in the bubble, didn't count. But, yeah, it's just nuts that, like, you still can't figure it out.
It's quite
Talk
fascinating.
about, like, AI, how, like, artificial intelligence is going to come in, change it. Like, no, there's still humans that are going to screw everything up. That human element is still going to screw up a ton of stuff. Case in point, the NBA draft, number 1 overall pick. And again, it's not Anthony Bennett's fault that he went number 1 overall. He didn't choose to be the number 1 overall pick. He didn't choose to be not as good at basketball as you wanted him to be. And it's the same thing with DeAndre Ayton, right? And the Phoenix Suns. Like, I know it didn't help that he went a whole year, it sounded like, without talking to his coach.
Yeah, it was probably a little rough, a little petty.
That's problematic. You go a full year, don't talk to your coach. But you know what? He didn't say, hey, Phoenix, I demand you draft me number 1. They did it.
Right. And
they
going
picked him
back
number
to
1.
What we talked about earlier in the show, Justin, like it still is going on in today's world, folks, because Justin and I talked about this morning. How do you think Detroit feels with Cade Cunningham right now?
Yeah.
Cade Cunningham, number 1 pick. There were some dudes in that draft who, have played better than Cade Cunningham, Justin, in the years since now. And, when he was drafted, you and I remember it well because we saw Oregon State knock him off, and Oregon State's little flash in a pan run. Sorry, Wayne Tinkle, it was a flash in the pan.
Hey, that banner up at Gill.
It'll fly forever.
Never take it down.
It'll fly forever.
That will never. But like your grandchildren, because Gill Coliseum's still going to be there.
It will be.
Your grandchildren are going to be looking up and be like, 2021.
You were around, Grandpa.
Elite 8. That must have been a really good team. No, it turns out they were not. They had a couple of dudes that caught fire.
I was on the radio with this guy. We had a good time. We broke it down. It was fun when they mattered and were relevant in basketball.
Who are the brothers?
Sorry?
Who are the brothers?
Which ones?
Of the Beavs of that team?
The Thompson brothers.
Thompson brothers. Not the Thompson twins who got drafted this time. Different set of Thompsons. So, 2021. That must have been a really good team. No, they were not good.
All I can say,
they had a couple of guys, and they caught fire.
All I can say, and again, I mean this half-heartedly, but also kind of funny, is we're, having a fun Friday. A fun Wednesday here on RCM. Justin, nobody is happier about a Mountain West scheduling alliance than Wayne Tinkle.
He's pumped. He's so pumped.
Oh, he's thrilled. He's like, I'm set. Like,
they play good hoops in the Mountain West, though.
This is true.
They play some good.
This is true.
Mountain West plays like San Diego State was just in the Final Four.
Can we remake the WAC? Can we bring back the WAC?
Well, I guess, does basketball have the scheduling alliance, the same thing as the football team does? We don't know yet.
We don't know.
Who knows?
Justin,
could you imagine if the Beavs and the Cougs tip it off in Vegas and they're like, yeah, it's the Pac-2 championship winner, and like they punch their ticket and they're like, yeah, we get automatic berth. I don't know how it works in basketball because obviously we don't care about basketball right now. But could you imagine we are a 2-team conference. We have a 2-year. Somebody's winning the Pac-2 in basketball.
That's a good question. It's
a guaranteed trip into the big dance.
What a mess. What a mess.
It is. It's a mess.
The only sport at Oregon State, Justin, that I imagine, even throughout this whole process, has woke up and been like, we'll be okay. Oregon State baseball.
Yeah, baseball's going to be fun because they're just going to schedule all the great, good teams when you want to schedule them, which is like February. And you're just going to, we'll go to UCLA and we'll go LSU, to Arizona State. We'll go to all these former Pac-12s. Yeah.
And I think that program is, and Justin, you know this too, having friends and colleagues that, are really well connected with that program. If there was a program at Oregon State that could be like kind of thumb their nose at this whole thing and say, we're kind of self-sustaining financially. We've got big pockets amongst people who really like to see us win. And we're, like Justin said, just going to go schedule anybody because we have the name recognition to play anybody.
Well, and it's also why football is frustrating. In baseball and in basketball, both men's and women's, you can make the big dance at any conference. At any conference. You can make a regional, you can make a super regional, you can get to the College World Series in any conference. We've seen it, right? Kent State beat Oregon. I was there. It was tough.
And they should.
Was it Oral Roberts that beat the Ducks this year?
Yes.
And Oral Bob coming. I don't even know what conference they're in, but you can make the College World Series being Oral Roberts or Kent State, or regardless, you can make the NCAA tournament. Football, we don't know. Like, again.
So unlike football.
I heard people, I think it was Chad and Dwight were talking about it, and it was like, why would you schedule Oregon State if you're Oregon? Because you got, if you're Oregon, I would schedule a Civil War game in September. It's a nice out-of-conference game. It's a moneymaker right there. It's a quality opponent on your schedule. Okay, so you're going to lose one every couple of years. Guess what? You win the Big Ten, you go to the playoff. Like, this idea of scheduling cupcakes is going to be over in about 2 or 3 years. It's going to be over.
Yeah, and I'm just curious your take on it, Justin, because, of course, everybody is, Oregon State fans looking for what positives they can find these days. Unlike football, which if you were left out of a major conference, and let's play the doom and gloom game for a minute, and Jonathan Smith maybe leaves, right? There's a thought, hey, Oregon State didn't recruit great guys before Jonathan Smith. That's the player development.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of Oregon State's niche. The Mike Riley that Justin loves to say. The throw guys into the fire as freshmen and sophomores, and by the time they're seniors,
we'll win in 2 years. Yeah,
we'll win. Baseball is unique, Justin, because I think just based on the national championships, they will have the name recognition to still get guys
100%.
for 10 to 15 years, you would think, right?
The same way, like, I know they're in the SEC, but like Vanderbilt, they stink at football. And nobody is pumping up Vanderbilt's athletic department, but it's like, yeah, they crush you at baseball. Or, like I said, if you're Oral Roberts, you can make the years. Cal State Fullerton. Cal State Fullerton was one of the best baseball programs, and they were in, I think, the Big West.
So you think so, Justin? What you're saying is, if it is threat level,
Tulane is great at baseball. They've made the College World Series a handful of times, and they're not a major conference team.
Right. So if it's threat level midnight, you're saying Oregon State should just get all in on baseball because that's
you kind of already are.
That sport.
You guys already are.
Well, you see, those baseball boys started to jump over to the football bandwagon, Justin, because it's gotten exciting these last couple years. So you're saying
they might be jumping back on
retreat
Friday.
to baseball because it will be safe.
There you
Heard,
go.
got it.
All right. We wasted enough time. We're not doing the big three today. It's not it. We don't need to do it. We're going to do make or miss. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe we'll filibuster that one as well. That's next. 620 Rip City Radio. from Oklahoma, and this is if Oregon wins out. But I do think there is something to listening to the committee when they talk, right? When the committee says something, believe them. I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks now. They have had the chance to rank Texas ahead of Oregon, which a lot of people, if it comes down to Oregon versus Texas, both at one loss, both conference champions, Texas is getting in with that win against Alabama. It's like, I don't know if they do. Because with that win over Alabama, Oregon's still ranked ahead of them right now. So I would assume Oregon wins on Friday. Texas beats, who are they playing? Who the heck is Texas playing this weekend? Is it A&M? Did they renew the rivalry with A&M?
Tech.
With Texas Tech, they didn't. No, LSU's playing A&M. Need A&M to play well so that Bo can win the Heisman. That's why I had A&M on the brain. But let's see. All right, so Oregon beats Oregon State, top 16 team. Texas beats Texas Tech, a team that Oregon already beaten this year, so common opponent. But Oregon beats Washington. Texas beats Oklahoma. In the horse race, I think Oregon stays ahead. That's what I believe. Now, again, I can't be trusted because I am emotionally invested in this. Speaking of emotionally invested, I'm curious, Brendan. Let's talk about this before we dive into Make or Miss. Because we mentioned that there's a lot of Oregon State fans, I think, a little bit nervous heading into Thanksgiving because of what Jonathan Smith said on Canzano's show yesterday about, you know what, I got an agent, and his job is to go out there and take a look. I'm not saying he's going to leave for Michigan State. I don't know what I would put a percentage on it at because I'm not in his head and I'm not in his heart, and I don't know what is important to Jonathan Smith this particular time in his career. But I do know what it is like to have coaches leave. If in this scenario, Jonathan Smith, let's say he wins Friday. Let's live in this scenario. He wins Friday, crushes Oregon's dreams, wins potentially the final Civil War game, and then rides off into the sunset and says, I did all I could do, Beavs. I am now off to Michigan State. What's the fan base think then? Like, is it, nope, dead to us? Is it not happy about it, but we get it? Wonder where it's at.
It'd be bad.
How much of it is the fact that Oregon State hasn't fired a coach since Jerry Pettibone? Like, how much, think about that. Mike Riley came in, left for the San Diego.
Technically, Gary Anderson.
He walked out on his own and left $7 million or something on the table. Like, 12. They haven't fired a coach since Jerry Pettibone. Mike Riley came in 96, I believe? Mike Riley came in 96. He left for the Chargers 3 years later. Then Dennis Erickson came in. He left for the 49ers. Then Mike Riley came back. He left for Nebraska. Then Gary Anderson came in. He left to, I don't know, spend more time with his family. Then Jonathan Smith came in.
Spend more time with some people.
Did?
What can I say?
Message boards are rough. Yeah.
But no.
I'm just, I mean, how much of it is that? Because, again, like from an Oregon perspective, Bellotti retired. Chip Kelly left for the NFL. We're like, all right, fired Helfrich. Then obviously the Taggart and the Cristobal thing. And, like, Oregon fans needed Dan Lanning to be like, I ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, very much.
Oregon State, do they need that from Jonathan Smith?
Very much in the same, and again, I'll preface this by saying this is my opinion. Very much in the same breath, and how recently with everything that's happened afterwards, I learned, or I thought, maybe Damian Lillard wasn't the Superman hero, just, where's the cape?
Yeah, he's a human being. Flawed right? Human.
And it's like, now kind of later, I'm not particular. I don't really care. I'm apathetic to his success or not success. And turns out maybe he wasn't quite the role model that everybody thought he was. Now, Jonathan Smith, on the other hand, Justin, talking to some Beaver fans last night when the news was starting to break, there were many who were like, for him to leave now, after everything that's happened this year, it would be very much like Dame preaching loyalty than walking out the door. So I imagine there would be some Beaver fans who would essentially be like, "You're dead to me, coach."
And I can understand that.
I'm not sure I'd feel that way, Justin. I'd need to know the circumstances and how should he depart. He does for me to gather an opinion.
Let me come at this from another perspective, from an outside perspective. And I know Oregon State fans love it when I do this. Keep texting Chad. But how much of it, though, is this was not the bill of goods that Jonathan Smith signed up for, right? He could have hung out at Washington and maybe taken over that job. You know what I mean? Like, potentially could have hung out at Washington, stayed there when Jimmy Lake got the job. Jimmy Lake got fired. They may have elevated him. Probably not. But instead, he's like, you know what? I'm going to go back. I know that it's going to be a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but I'm going to rebuild Oregon State. It's my alma mater. I love it. In the middle of that pandemic, thrown right in the middle of it. Yeah, in one of those rebuilding years, you get 5 games with no fans, right? Right in the middle of it. Can't recruit. You got to Zoom. All right, we weathered that storm. Now, I do think there is a little bit of like where I could see this is not what I signed up for. And it's not his fault. It's not like he did anything. This was money, greed, TV execs, bad leadership, all that, which we've talked about ad nauseum. I do see where does he owe it to Oregon State to try to see them once again? He saw him through the rough patch, which was rebuilding the program that was almost destroyed by Gary Anderson. Saw him through the rough patch that was COVID and a 2020 year unlike any other. And now, like, you're asking him to see him through a third rough patch. It's a tough ask.
Yeah, see, in my opinion, for him to have been genuine in saying that, you know, he loves Oregon State, loves everything about it. For me,
there's a lot of money in Michigan. I'm just saying they make cars still there.
For me, if he leaves this year, it says everything I need to know about his character. So we'll see.
All right. Well, you know what we will see? Make or miss. Let's do it. Let's fire it up.
It bounces off the crossbar, and it's good. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Oh, and a
and better situation for Jonathan Smith could come. It is just simply that this year at this moment, if after everything that happened this year, you decide to do this to the fan base, don't let the door hit you.
It's such a tough spot to be in. I mean, he's compensated well for this tough spot.
Like,
I don't want to say I don't envy him, but like
almost $6 million a year, and he's on par with his peers. I think after it might have been changed since, but after the end of the CW last year, he was briefly higher paid than Dan Lanning. So I just don't.
Uncle Phil will not let that happen.
I just, you know, it would, like I said, not take all the personal out of it, I think there would be a lot of Oregon State fans who would feel betrayed, and a lot of Oregon State fans who, maybe even myself included, Justin, who would put their hands up in the air and be like, what next? What next?
Yeah.
So,
and then the other part of it,
Jonathan Smith would not be endeared well.
Again, this is where we come into these wrinkles, right? Normally, it's where you kind of float out like, all right, look, my agent takes care of that. Boosters get nervous. Here, you want an extension? Right? Well, that can't happen. There's a financial thing going on. Can't really write any checks right now. We think we got money coming in, but it ain't in the bank account yet. All right, do we have a make or miss?
We have a lot, actually.
Okay.
So, I actually put a lot of effort into this one.
I
Justin,
appreciate it.
Which we will not get to, which is a shame. But nevertheless, we're going to enjoy it here on a Wednesday. Almost said Friday again.
Almost. I see where your brain's at.
Yeah.
Don't hate it, though.
Hey, if it was Friday, it'd already be CW, and I'm not ready for that.
We're like the only ones in the building right now.
We need to have some quality food tomorrow first. But let's go ahead and open up Make or Miss. We kind of just talked about Jonathan Smith, so we'll go ahead and pass on that one, Justin. Let's move and transition over to the NFL. I want to talk about this. Russell Wilson and the Broncos aren't cooked yet.
They're not cooked yet. That is a make. They are not cooked yet. They're 5-5. I mean, if you're at or above 500 in the NFL, you got a shot, right? That's head above water. You have got a shot. We have seen teams that finish one game above 500 and make it to the Super Bowl. Now, here's what is almost poetically funny, and I would say ironic, but I know that people misuse that term all the time, right? Alanis Morissette, isn't it ironic? Yeah, it's not irony. English teachers will tell you, yeah, that's not ironic. That is actually just bad luck. Two very different things, but it is laughable to me that the way that Sean Payton has, quote-unquote, fixed Russell is essentially turned him back into the thing that Pete Carroll was doing that Russell hated. He hated it so much that he needed out of Seattle. I needed to flap my butterfly wings and get out of this cocoon that you've kept me in Seattle. And so you do that in Denver and massively fail in year one. So Sean Payton comes in. He's like, let's fix Russell. How do we do that? Well, let's just turn him back into what Pete Carroll was doing. That worked. They went to a couple Super Bowls, went to the playoffs a lot. Won a lot of games, couple of divisional championships. Let's just do. He's not like complete game manager, check down Charlie, but he's not throwing the moonshots that he wants to be throwing. He's not doing the spin cycle, run around and be. He's sitting in the pocket. He's taking what the defense gives him, not turning the ball over, and on 3rd and 9, throwing a couple of dimes because he's still a legit quarterback. It's laughable. Like, boy, where have we seen this Russell Wilson before? In Seattle, and he hated it so much, he demanded a trade. It's funny to me. Like, I can't do this too much. I need an offense that can let me shine. Sean Payton, here's how you're going to shine. Let's be conservative. Let's not turn the ball over. All right.
It is very Pete Carroll-esque, and I think,
and because it works,
and it's one of those things that
the Seahawks went to the playoffs last year with Geno.
Right.
They might go to the playoffs again with Geno.
Right.
The Broncos might go to the playoffs with. It works.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't turn the ball over.
I think again, that's also just like the NFL in general, Justin. We've seen the Cleveland Browns and Pittsburgh Steelers do that this year, where it's like, if you run the ball, you play good defense, you limit your mistakes, you can be pretty terrible offensively and still have a winning record.
So terrible. You can be 6-4 and be outgained in every single game.
Yeah, no disrespect to your Steelers, but they are 31st out of 32 teams in passing yardage, Justin.
How bad is the Carolina Panthers?
And again, 2 + 2 = 4. I wouldn't expect too many people that had 31st to have a winning record. So
yeah.
The NFL can be weird, especially when you've got, and again, I would put Sean Payton up there with Mike Tomlin, with Pete Carroll as being elite coaches who can change their system and scheme year by year based on what personnel they have. And, very much how like Mike Tomlin, since Ben Roethlisberger's like, all right, we're going to circle the wagons and we're going to figure this out. Mm-hmm. They still haven't had a losing season.
They have not.
So, and I'm,
still in a division right now where outside of Lamar Jackson, The starting quarterbacks is, Joe Flacco just signed with the Browns, but it's DTR.
Yep. Jake Browning.
And Jake Browning.
Whoop.
DTR and Jake Browning.
Yes, sir.
That's who Kenny Pickett has to be better than.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
And they lost to DTR. Got to beat Jake Browning.
Again,
They're playing Jake Browning this weekend. Got to beat Jake Browning.
Can't hate on DTR too much. He was a really good college player, Justin.
Was he, though?
I mean,
Was he a good college player?
I thought so. I mean,
I guess we put too much on the quarterback. They didn't win anything.
we pulling Dan Lanning in Colorado?
Yeah. It's kind of like, no, UCLA. They recently, this conference, won anything?
Yeah.
Nothing?
He was one of those guys.
BCS, New Year's Six Bowl, they've been to any of those? No,
yeah,
zero?
No,
Got it.
I really liked watching him play in college. So he was, it was that whole, Justin, we talked about it. It's no one cares anymore, but it was the whole Chip, wait, I'm going to play all these guys as freshmen.
They were the baby Bruins.
Right, and then last year,
And then you tried to pull it off 2 or 3 more times. You can't just keep pulling off
They
one young.
went 8-4 last year. Is that a bad year for UCLA?
For UCLA, paying your coach as much as paying Chip Kelly, I think that's a bad year.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, you would think.
8-4 solid from this perspective.
Brandon, Chip Kelly as a head coach for Oregon won 3 conference titles, and the one year he didn't win a conference title, they were 11-1 and went to Fiesta Bowl. UCLA has not sniffed that, and I think that's where it's like, I thought we were paying for that. But that's the chip we were getting, not this. I'm getting paid by 3 teams right now: Philadelphia, San Francisco, and UCLA. I got a really fat house.
Do you think he survived?
I think so.
I think
USC
so too.
Win got him.
Yeah.
I don't. Much like you talked about with Jonathan Smith, and at this particular time, UCLA doesn't want to do a coaching search going into the Big Ten. I don't think. I think they want to play one season in the Big Ten. Then maybe.
I'll say this.
Make a coaching change.
And again, I'm not Jonathan Smith's agent. I don't have him on speed dial. Apparently, they talk quite often, Justin. Apparently, he expects a lot of great performances out of his agent. So, all that to say, if I'm Jonathan Smith, Justin, for the reason you just mentioned that UCLA may not be open, but USC could be down the line and will be a Big Ten team, as will UCLA. If I'm Jonathan Smith, I step back and go, a better job. If I want to leave and I don't believe in Oregon State, a better job than Michigan State will open.
UCLA might open next year.
And that, to me, is a way better job than Michigan State. Hands down. So.
All right, real quick, because we're going to get out of here.
Sure.
They play Hawaii. Then they're off, and they play Indiana in a conference game. Then they go to Tiger Stadium, LSU does, and play the Obviously, we are laser focused on game on Friday. Also, by the way, there's a Seahawks game tomorrow. Seahawks 49ers tomorrow.
That's going to be a good one.
It might be a bloodbath. 49ers.
Yeah. Believe in the Hawks.
49ers are good again. But again, like we just talked about, Pete Carroll and just kind of grinding it out. And Thanksgiving night in Seattle would be fun. It's supposed to be I think the weather's supposed to be perfect up there. But obviously, we have a big old country that we live in, coast to coast. Flyover states, warm weather, cold weather, everything in between. And every place has got their own little pockets for their version of Thanksgiving. And so we have found the most popular Thanksgiving pies, the most popular Thanksgiving potato dishes, and this according to Delish.com, which I question them. They never asked me anything because it is clear they have never been to the great state of Oregon. So for that, let us first open up Worldwide Wednesday.
And we found the most random story you never heard. It's Worldwide Wednesday on RCM.
All right, so this is a list by Delish.com of the most popular pie in every state. And it says uniquely searched pies in the last 30 days. Now, I don't know what's going on in the great state of Oregon and what's going on with our search history. Maybe too much incognito mode, because you look at California's pumpkin pie, Washington's blackberry pie, which I love blackberry pie. I don't know if it's Thanksgiving pie, but blackberry pie. Is a cobbler a pie? It's in the pie family.
I say so, yes.
I love blackberry cobbler. It's so good. But I have never once heard of this thing known as a tamale pie that apparently is the most searched for in Oregon. Texas got pecan pie. You've got, banana cream pie up in Nebraska. You have got key lime pie in Colorado. Oregon, tamale pie? What are we doing? What's going on? Now, here's the thing. I love tamales, and I know that traditionally tamales, Christmas Eve, had those before.
Never have.
Oh, tamales on.
Like, I've had tamales, but not on Christmas Eve.
I think at least it was a Christmas tradition at one of my friends' houses. They made tamales on Christmas Eve. Fantastic. I love it. Never once heard of a tamale pie, though. So again, I've lived in Oregon my entire life, and I see these lists, and I'm like, no, we do pumpkin pie around here, okay? Pumpkin pie, it's great. It's the GOAT. It's fantastic. It should be around more than just on Thanksgiving, but you know what? The fact that it's here on Thanksgiving, I love an apple pie as much as the next guy. I just talked about how much I love a blackberry or a peach cobbler. But listen, on Thanksgiving, it's pumpkin pie time. All right? Bare minimum, just go to Costco and get one of those big behemoths. What about you? What will the Slaughter family be enjoying for dessert?
Pumpkin pie.
You go whipped cream on it or just straight pumpkin pie?
Ooh, I think.
You a little whipped cream on it?
Yeah, a little whipped cream, and I think we'll have ice cream, too.
But you put ice cream on the pumpkin pie?
Like, just as a side.
Oh, it's on the side.
Yeah.
There you go. Umpqua ice cream? Yeah.
I don't know if
I'm just going to pretend you do.
I don't know if ice cream's been purchased yet.
All right, well, we get the.
But yes, I think that's on the list today. We got a lot to do. A lot to do today, Justin, and including a little appearance between you and I later this afternoon.
That might happen too. Tell Mama Slaughter, first off, Vanderpump is awesome. Second off, you got to get the Umpqua. All right, you just got to. That's the way we do it.
So you're saying you go with Umpqua over
over everything? Umpqua over everything.
Well, I
don't know of another kind of ice cream in this great state. Is there anything that's even on par with Umpqua ice cream? Is there even a?
You're begging me to trigger you.
Is
right?
there another potential ice cream in this great state that even is on the same playing surface as Umpqua? I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I've never heard of it. If you know,
it's I'd probably ride for one of the local ones, but Justin,
there's the one local one.
I like Briars. I like Dryers. I mean, they're not.
Dude, just get an Umpqua, dude.
They're not bad. Like ice cream's kind of expensive, Justin. I'm looking for the deal when I go to the store.
My mother-in-law, God bless her, she knows that we get the Umpqua when Justin comes.
Shout out.
Because, dude, I am not picky about many things. We're going to have ice cream in the house. Oh, it's going to be a red carton, and it's going to have an Umpqua label right on it. This one I saw, too. Uniquely searched potato dishes state by state, right? Let's see. Washington, mashed potatoes. Idaho, baked potatoes, which that would be interesting on Thanksgiving to do baked potatoes. And, of course, Oregon, we got to be weirdos. Leek and potato soup, which I would assume is probably delicious on most cool, chilly, fall to winter nights. I would love a delicious leek and tomato soup or leek and potato soup. What are we doing on Thanksgiving? There's one way to serve potatoes, and that is mashed with so much butter in it that you almost get like greasy fingers.
I did not know what a leek was until just now.
Yeah, it's kind of an onion.
Yeah, I did not know what a leek was.
It's good. It's a good soup, but like, look, I'm a soup guy.
It is soup season.
We are in the heart of soup season, but tomorrow soup season takes a day off because it is Thanksgiving. And then you take all your turkey stuff and you can make a delicious turkey soup.
You can also blend up turkey from what we've heard.
Yeah, that's kind of gross. Sorry, Josh. That's kind of gross.
We love you, Josh.
That's a deep cut to the regular listeners of this particular program. You go mashed potatoes?
Oh, yeah.
Butter, cream, all of it.
All of it, and then a little garlic, too. We like to have the garlic mashed potatoes. It's definitely a go-to. I ride for stuffing. That's still my favorite.
Like
stuffing is my favorite side dish. I know it's breadcrumbs, but regardless.
Brendan, it does not make a lick of sense that stuffing is not, I've talked about this a ton. Why is it not a 12-month of the year food? Honest to goodness. Like, why is it in, like, the middle of...
I have a few answers.
We have mashed potatoes all year round. Why do we have stuffing all year round? Like,
I think it's kind of a fattening food. I think people...
So is mashed potatoes.
It is, but I think people...
Like people stop eating fattening foods.
That's true. It's not like anyone stops going to McDonald's, Taco Bell, or what have you. But I think that's a part of it. I think there's just something with, like... I'll say this, Justin. I've seen stuffing, and we have stuffing at Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 times a year, for sure. So it's not unique to Thanksgiving, but I'll say with you, it does seem to be more of a cold weather food.
Well, February.
Interestingly
enough. Why don't we eat stuffing in February? What says I love you more than just a delicious plate of stovetop stuffing? All right, we got to get to the break.
Well said.
We've got hour number 3. Tyson Alger joins the show. RCM mailbag. More football talk as well. That's next, 620 Rip City Radio.
to know. From the Goldberg-Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg-Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Portland Trail Blazers fall for the 8th consecutive time. This time it was the Phoenix Suns, 120-109. Kevin Durant led the way for Phoenix with 31 points, 24 for Jeremy Grant. But no time to sulk as the Blazers look to get off of this losing streak. They'll be tipping it off against the Utah Jazz tonight at the Moda Center, 7 o'clock tip time. Pre-game coverage begins at 4:30 right here on 620 Rip City Radio. Civil War set for Friday, 5:30 kickoff at Autzen Stadium. It is going to be chilly, but beautiful down in the Willamette Valley. Oregon, the number 6 team in the latest college football playoff rankings, the highest-ranked one-loss team. Oregon State falls 5 spots. They are number 16 in the college football playoff, and Washington has leapfrogged Florida State after the win in Corvallis. They now sit controlling their own destiny at number 4 in the country. Tyson Alger, friend of the program from the I-5 corridor, is going to be joining us in about 20 minutes, but hour number 3 of RCM starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. The most transparent show in Portland is Rip City Mornings with Justin Myers, here on 620 Rip City Radio.
I saw this yesterday on the X app, and you know what? When you are covering the Blazers and you do pre and post game for the Blazers, and they're in the middle of an 8-game losing streak, and there's really nothing much you can do about it. You can't pound on the table. You can't scream at the clouds. It's just they're injured. They're young. There's a talent gap. They're playing hard. They're trying their best. But they just don't have the horses. You got to find something to occupy your time. And my good buddy, you know him, you love him. He's the host of Rip City Drive. Chad Dewing went on to the X app yesterday, and he threw this question out. And I think it is a very apropos question. Brendan, I think I know which way you're going to lean, but I think it's closer than you think. Which 100-point reward was better? The current 6-piece chicken McNugget for the Blazers scoring 100 points in a game, or the fan favorite for years and years and years, which is one free chalupa? Which one was better?
There's no questions to chalupa. I almost retweeted your tweet when I saw it last night, but I figured we'd talk about it today. But yeah, no question. This is this conversation is shut and finished, in my opinion.
Because here's what's amazing about the chalupa, if I could be so bold.
I'll say this: when was the last time you had a chalupa?
Long
Justin?
time.
Let's get into that real quick.
Long time been since I had a chalupa.
That delicious outer shell.
Because so they had the gorditas. The gorditas came first. Then they were like, hey, what if we took those gorditas and we deep fry those bad boys? What do we call that? That's a chalupa. So here's the thing that is the beauty of said chalupa. For my entire childhood, Brendan, fast food did not change. Sure, we got a McRib that came into our life, but for the most part, McDonald's was burgers, fries, and a McChicken is a different option. But most of the time, guess what? It's burger, it's ketchup, it's pickle onion on a bun. Sometimes it's a Big Mac, sometimes it's quarter pounder, but for the most part, no real changes. You got burger, you got chicken nuggets, you got a McChicken. Taco Bell for a long, long time, it was the same thing, right? It was, look, crunchy taco, soft taco, bean burrito. That's what you get. Nachos Bel Grande, maybe, but that's what you got. And there were different versions of it, and you could get a taco supreme. Supreme, in my opinion, means sour cream and tomato, which is always funny. But that was what was there. Wendy's had the square hamburgers, and maybe they would have the chili, which, by the way, you know what I found out on the old internet? You know why Wendy's offers chili?
Because they needed a way to not throw away the hamburger patty.
Exactly right, because they don't freeze their hamburgers.
Dave was smart, Justin.
Dave was smart.
So just going to throw that out there.
Well, and I don't know who was in charge of the Big Bacon Classic, but tip of the cap to you, sir. Or ma'am. I don't know who did it. Or they, them. I don't know. I don't know who invented the Big Bacon Classic. All I know is I'm appreciative. But for years and years and years, there was really nothing. Like, sometimes they would introduce, like, McDonald's tried pizza. Get out. We don't want that. It's like we like burgers, we like fries at McDonald's, we like tacos and chips at the Taco Bell. Then came the gorditas and then the chalupas. And it was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Taco Bell, you have changed the game. I believe actually it started with the double-decker taco, which we had taco night at the Myers house the other day, and wife wanted crunchy tacos. I'm not a crunchy taco guy, but I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to see if I can't make myself a double-decker taco. And I did. Not as good as Taco Bell can make it, but started with the double-decker taco. Then came the gorditas. Then they're like, what if we took that gordita and we deep fried it and we made a chalupa? And everybody was like, I don't know what you just did, but you've created magic. And it was one of the rare times where it's just like you introduce something new, stuck around, staying power. Chicken nuggets have been around forever. By the way, I saw a conspiracy theory that chicken nuggets have actually gotten smaller over the years.
Wouldn't surprise me. I mean,
they've gotten smaller over the years. Now, maybe it was because they seemed bigger when I was a child because I had, I was of the size of a child. And now that I'm the size of a grown man, I go, but did they make these smaller? But there is a internet conspiracy that the chicken McNuggets, particularly, have gotten smaller over the years. Now, I do know the fries are different.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, obviously, Justin, I know you watched you're a history buff like me, so I know you told me that you'd watched, The Food That Built America, which was a very cool.
I love that show. My wife thinks it's the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, I love it too. Great minds, right? But
you're just sitting there learning about how we got ketchup in our lives. Yeah, I am. It's fascinating.
But you learned that chicken being added to fast food was completely hey, beef is expensive, chicken isn't, but we don't know what the public's going to think of it, right? So now that I think it's kind of shifted, and now I think for the most part, at fast food restaurants, I think chicken is a pretty popular item. And, Justin, we've had to create quite a lot of chickens to feed the United States supply of chicken nuggets and all that. So I think smalling them down a little bit.
In the great argument of Chicken McNuggets and the chalupa, how did the chalupa, is it truly a better product or is it just more fun to say when your team scores 100 points?
I think it's truly a better product because McDonald's nuggets are not my favorite nuggets. So that's where it is. Wendy's for me. Yeah, I ride or die for Wendy's.
But you only get 5.
No, 6.
I think we might need to Google it. I think you only get 5.
Pretty sure it's 6.
Either or. We're going to get to the bottom of it. Only the important things on this particular program.
No, I like McDonald's nuggets. They're solid. I'd eat them, but
What about the Chick-fil-A nuggets? Do you like the Chick-fil-A nuggets?
Not as much as I like Wendy's.
All right. Because they're spicy. They're the spicy nuggets.
Either or. You can pick either or at Wendy's.
Why would you ever not go spicy?
So, yes, Justin, they come in 4, 6, and 8.
Oh, so, okay, there was the 4.
Okay, yeah. See,
got it. I knew there was less than 6.
Yeah, you're like, good call.
Also, here's the other thing. Because obviously nobody just rolls through and gets a 6-piece nugget. That's psychopath behavior.
Just a nugget by itself.
A grown adult. The Blazers have scored 100 and what did they score last night? The Blazers have scored 107 points. I shall take my 6 nuggets. Thank you very much.
And
then nothing else. No soda, no fries, no extra quarter pounder. Just like that.
That guy.
I'm questioning whether or not, anybody in your past has gone missing. Is all I'm going to say.
Rightfully so.
Maybe I will see you on a documentary one day where I'm like. So in the same thing with the chalupa, right? Nobody just drives through and just gets one chalupa. That's another psychopath behavior if you were to do that. But I would imagine if you were going hey, I'll take a Crunchwrap Supreme, I'll get, a soft taco and throw in this free chalupa. It seems to fit better. But I don't know, I thought it was an interesting debate. It was very one-sided. I don't know of one person in the comments or in the quote tweets that even said 6-piece chicken McNugget, which is fascinating because you thought at least somebody's going to be a contrarian. But I remember before the chalupa, do you remember when you would get a fry you get like a free French fry. And I'm like, and back then it was by the way, tip of the cap to
So I actually don't. You're saying that was before?
Before Chalupa, I believe somebody, if you at Justin Myers 541, if you're on the YouTube, you can comment. I know, I'm sorry I don't comment back. I'm doing a show here. Brendan's commenting back. I believe before the Chalupa, it was a free French fry.
Okay, interesting.
And tip of the cap, the figurative, not literal cap, tip of the cap, because Blazers marketing, like there was no app back then where it was like it's active. They had people standing out, free fry, free French fry.
Yeah, see, I
Free
don't
French
remember
fry.
that.
On the way out the door, you would get like the free French fry out the door, but that was one where I was, as a kid, I was like, that doesn't make a lick of sense.
Yeah, no.
Much like on the back of the Oregon tickets when I was growing up, you would get a free bloomin' onion at Outback. And it was like, who goes and just, table for one, I shall take one bloomin' onion. Thank you.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that is.
Could you imagine if you went to Outback and just ordered one bloomin' onion and then just sat there and ate it by yourself? It's like, somebody called the police. We got a sketchy subject here. I don't know who it is.
Eating a bloomin' onion by himself.
Cops are like, what are they doing that's suspicious? Walked in, ordered one bloomin' onion, ate it by themselves.
Yeah, no.
You tell me, officer. And they're like, we'll be there in 2 seconds.
So it was Outback Bloomin' Onion. Growing up for me, it was always the what was it? The like the 5-star burger on the back of Oregon State tickets from Carl's Jr.
Oregon had a Carl's Jr. run too.
Yeah, Carl's Jr. was popular on those.
I think it was the South. Whatever the one who had barbecue sauce and an onion ring.
Yes.
Whatever that one was called.
Like the Western burger, maybe. But yeah, no, I totally. It is quite fascinating to look back on that and see that, like, to Justin's point, I remember going to Blazer games. My earliest Blazer games were shortly after the Western Conference Finals run of 00, so like 01, 02 are my earliest memories going to a Blazer game. Justin, I just remember when they would hand us a Taco Bell ticket.
Yeah.
And Mom or whoever would be like, we can swing by Taco Bell on the way home. So
marketing at its best, because that's exactly
I don't know.
what
I always thought it was cool. And I feel like you're getting more bang for your buck.
I got a text in on the text line. My own personal text. Somebody who we used to know, but now we pretend not to know. You know what I'm saying? Because they're on a different show. But we used to know them pretty well, but now we pretend like we don't know them. Best Blazer promo was Papa Murphy's $4.25 pizza when the Blazers were winning with 4 minutes and 25 seconds left in the second quarter. I don't remember that, but that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Because Papa Murphy's, good. Right? Love at 425 degrees.
Yes, sir. Where are you on Papa Murph's?
A big fan.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah. Me too.
I found a little Papa Murphy's hack and tip of the cap to my good friend Nicholas Lawler. He's not listening. He's down in Eugene. But he would get the Papa Murphy's, throw it on the Traeger. Because you can set the Traeger like an oven.
I like that.
And you could get like, I don't know if it made it better or not, but it seemed cooler. So you would Traeger the Papa Murphy's.
That.
But
interesting. I'd have to try that one of these days if I
think the statute of limitations is over. I talked to you about how my my Abby's hack used to work, because back in the 90s there was no caller ID in Winston, Oregon. So if somebody called in a pizza to Abby's and then didn't show up, it was just there. So I may or may not have known someone to go outside of Abby's to the payphone, call in Abby's to maybe a guy that I knew working at Abby's, going like, large Abby special for Carl.
It's all about how you work it, man.
And then we would sit there and then they'd be like, somebody called in this pizza, they never came and picked it up. Do you guys want it? We're like, yeah.
Of course we do. No,
did my friend Amanda, who was the assistant manager at Papa Murphy's, maybe potentially have a couple of, giant cowboys?
Yeah.
It's just, I called in. You want it? Maybe.
Yeah, Justin, there's no shame in that, because that'd be like me saying I didn't hook up all my friends with when I was working at the drink stop known as Sonic, man.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime the friends...
Brandon's working Sonic today, man. Let's go get us a cherry limeade.
Anytime same with Justin, statute of limitations has passed, I'd be like, okay, it was such a... chaotic scene where so many people going so many miles an hour, you can be like, oh, 2 large drinks? Nobody's going to notice if I just step outside here. Here you go, fellas. So, yeah, it's, being able to hook your friends up with stuff, Justin, that's clutch. But you didn't work at Abby's, so that's an even better flex.
Yeah, I know.
So, credit to you.
My buddy Brian West did. Shout out to Brian West. Sorry if we got you in trouble. Tyson Alger, we're going to get his thoughts on the Chalupa 6-piece nugget debate. Plus, we're going to talk some football as well. Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joins us next, 620 Rip City Radio. the annual Apple Cup, because they're going to continue to play that for the next couple of years, at least the next 5 years. Oregon will be taking on Oregon State. Will it be the final Civil War? Will Oregon State put down their swords and figure out a way to continue this rivalry in the middle of September? Because that's what it's all about. But still, a lot of work to be done with the season. Joining us now, friend of the program from the I-5 corridor. His name is Tyson Alger. We are excited to have him back on the big show. Good morning, Tyson. How are we doing?
Hey, good morning, Justin. I'm doing great. How are you, man?
We're doing fantastic. Just got into a fantastic discussion of the Blazers' 100-point reward to the fans. Where do you sit on the 6-piece McNugget versus the Chalupa?
I see that's a tough thing, because I feel like the Chalupa, no one's going to try to be like, hey, can I get one of those? You know, like a 6-piece nugget turns into like a 4-piece nugget real quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no one's like, hey, can I sneak in a bite around the other corner of your Chalupa there? That being said, I don't like, I don't like the qualifications that are coming with you score 100 points, you get 6 free chicken nuggets upon purchase. Am I right? Is it something like that?
I believe you got to order it through the app, and it's only good for like a handful of hours. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I have yet to do it. I've yet to get the free 6-piece nugget. But I think you got to like go through the app, as opposed to when, in the good old days before apps and phones ruined our lives, you could just walk out of the arena and they would just hand you, a free Chalupa coupon that seemingly was good forever.
I think if they really want to tie the promotion into it, when the Blazers win, and granted, this isn't going to be a whole lot this year, so like this isn't a huge potential operation, but they should just rain down chicken nuggets instead of the confetti.
Or like a chicken nugget cannon. Yeah, I like it. Well, they used to have, remember they had the, I don't know if they still have it, the Fred Meyer blimp would go around the arena and drop like coupons, and like you're saying, just have the Fred Meyer blimp, but just drop chicken nuggets. I like it.
Exactly.
This is absolutely what we need to have happen. Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. It's funny you mentioned how the 6 McNuggets become 4 real fast. I know that you know this because you and I, we're indoor cats. We're married. That is the married guy answer of like, hey, do you want anything? No, I'm not hungry. Okay, great. I'm going to get a 6-piece McNugget. Can I get one of those? It's like, well, you said you didn't want anything. I would have ordered a 10-piece if you said you wanted one. I know you're with me on that.
Yeah, and like if you would have gotten a 10-piece, you probably would have gotten 2 barbecue sauces instead of 1, and now you're getting 2 people dipping in the barbecue sauce, and it just turns into a mess.
It's a whole thing. All right, let's talk some football. Pretty big game coming up on Friday, Tyson. Obviously from a historical perspective, because this for the foreseeable future, maybe the end of the Civil War. We don't know, because obviously Washington and Washington State have kind of come to terms. Fascinating that they can schedule 5 games while actively suing one another, which, again, the power to the people, getting stuff done. But from a historical perspective, do you think, if you were to guess, both sides between Oregon and Oregon State could find a way like Washington and Washington State did? Is it beneficial for both schools to continue the rivalry, even if it's being played in September? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, you know what? I think once kind of the bad blood boils down, I think they will end up realizing that this is best for everyone. I mean, from Oregon's perspective, to be able to kind of, I think Oregon's going to have to do a little bit of like rebuilding some goodwill in the state. I mean, it's obviously, I don't disagree at all with the Ducks' decision to go to the Big Ten, as we've seen over the last few months since that move has happened. It's shown that it's become absolutely necessary to avoid the type of situation that the Beavers are in. But yeah, like it's going to be nice for the Ducks to be able to schedule a team in the state that keeps going some sort of tradition that we're losing right now. And from Oregon State's perspective, obviously it's kind of a bitter thing, and you really want to be the team that says, like, we don't want to play the Ducks. Why would we play the Ducks? But at the end of the day, that's going to be an in-state opponent. It's going to be television exposure. It's going to be, it's just going to be necessary. Like, as much as I, like, want to be rooting for like both teams to be bitter for each other, to take a few years off from this thing. I think what Washington and Washington State saw is like, oh my gosh, like as we're going to be scheduling these things out for the next few years, there's going to be a whole lot of travel, a whole lot of road games, and it's probably going to be best to try to keep some sort of regionality to it. And I think ultimately that's what the Ducks and Beavers will decide. But it's going to be a trip having that game be, the second week of September, especially contrasting with what we're setting up here this week with what, as I don't think it's hyperbole to say that this is one of the most important ones ever.
I mean, there's only a handful that you can even throw in the conversation, right? You've got 2009 when both teams had a chance to go to the Rose Bowl, 2008, the year before Oregon State had a Rose Bowl on the line, and then you go back to the 2000. Like that's kind of it when you think about going into this game. Let's talk about the game itself, Tyson, because since Oregon has lost to Washington, they have not played a competitive fourth quarter, right? No team that they have played has had the ball with a chance to tie or take the lead in the fourth quarter. USC was kind of the closest, but it really never fully came down to the wire. They have kind of exercised a lot of those demons that we talk about, playing at Utah, playing at Arizona State, the Washington State kind of being a spoiler. And now, of course, it's going to come down to Oregon and Oregon State. There's been no team in Oregon's history that has loved more of ruining their dreams than Oregon State has in this game. It's a 14-point spread, but I've seen point spreads come and go in this game, Tyson. When you look at the way Oregon's playing right now, the way Oregon State is dealing with coming off of a loss on a short week, how do you see this one playing out at Autzen on Friday?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think this one matches up super well for the Beavers. I think it's incredibly respectful what they've been able to put together this season. And like when they were at their peak, I think they can be pretty good. But they're coming into this game a little bit banged up. It's at Autzen. It's at the end of the year. You kind of got the whole Jonathan Smith stuff swirling. And Oregon's just playing – right now, Oregon's playing as good a football as I think I've ever seen an Oregon team play football. Like, the offense is that in sync. The defense is that aggressive. There's no real holes on this team. And when you kind of mix that with the fact of, like, what they have on the line, what happened in last year's game, just the overall consistency at which they've played since that Washington game, really kind of the consistency in which they've played all year, I don't think Oregon State is going to be able to hang with them. Oregon State's a very good football team, but they're not a 100% complete football team. They're not as balanced on offense as the Ducks are. And as good as Oregon State's defense can be, I think the Ducks are going to still put points up on them. And I just don't think that Oregon State's been consistent enough offensively to mount the type of drives that you're going to need to be able to counteract a Bo Nix-led offense that's completing like 80% of its passes. You know what I mean?
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Tyson, I had to have a family talk with Oregon fans in hour number one, which I'm sure they took very well from me. But the idea that a lot of Oregon fans have been doing look at the Arizona State scores and look at the Utah scores and, look at the Stanford scores. Obviously, look at where Oregon is and Washington is, conveniently forgetting that both teams played each other on a football field. And there was a final outcome. And on the flip side, you've got Washington fans who are like, we win 12 games, go 12-0. I mean, why do we even schedule this Pac-12 championship? Don't even think it should even be played. It is kind of fascinating, both teams kind of fast-forwarding through from the situation. But I guess when you're number 4 and number 6 in the country and you got a ton on the line with the college football playoff, it's going to happen. As we sit here right now, this is an unfair question. But as we sit here right now, with Oregon State on Friday, win, and obviously a matchup against Washington, does Oregon fairly control their own destiny in the college football playoff, or do they need some help?
I think they control their own destiny. The fact that they haven't, I feel like the narrative has kind of slightly changed negative towards them just in the last week. Not at all in terms of how Oregon's playing. Like I think this is actually some of the most respect the Ducks have gotten nationally in a long time. There's a lot of, even when comparing the Ducks to Washington, there's a lot of the Ducks would look better if it wasn't for that one actual result. Like, who cares if they actually play the games, Justin? Like, it doesn't matter what happens on the actual field.
Yeah, I know. Get the spreadsheet out, do the all the analytics, and it's just no, they played and lost. It has to matter at some point.
Yeah, but I just feel like if Oregon wins this game, if they win the Pac-12 championship next week, I just feel like they've been close enough already.
Mm-hmm.
And like, let's say what this is. Like, this is part of an entertainment show too. And if I'm the college football playoff and I'm ESPN, like, Oregon's a team that's going to draw in a lot of ratings. It's something different. It has a quarterback that everyone in the country knows, potentially the Heisman Trophy winner. It's got a head coach who is rapidly becoming one of the more known coaches in college football. I'm not saying that the Ducks deserve to get in because they're the most popular team in the country. I do think that they would be one of the top 4 teams in the country in that situation. But I just think that I feel like things have been trending in the direction for the Ducks for if they are able to take care of business, that they'll eventually get to where they need to go. Because at the end of the day, like these are 2 more quality wins that they're going to have to pick up, which also might be the 2 quality wins on their resume if you kind of look at how everyone else they've played has fared since playing the Ducks. But yeah, I thought it was a positive seeing Washington jump up to number 4 yesterday. You're going to see Michigan or Ohio State lose in the coming weeks. So I think as long as the boat keeps pointing straight, they're going to end up getting there.
Well, and that's the other thing, because I know Oregon has had a handful of top 25 wins. Well, those top 25 wins went away because USC kind of fell apart. Colorado clearly fell apart. Washington State was ranked at the time, and they have since fallen apart. And then there's the Utah part of it, which is, again, Tennessee is ranked number 21 in the country at 7-4, and Tennessee played Florida and got smoke showed. Utah played Florida. Last I checked, they won that game. Clemson at 7-4, still ranked. So there is still a bit of like, they don't have a ranked win. It's like, yeah, who's doing the rankings here? You know what I mean? It's not like ranking is a scientific thing. They still have some pretty good wins. But I think, Tyson, if it comes down to, because it sounds like the argument may ultimately come down to Oregon versus Texas, right? If both Oregon and Texas went out and some other things happen, I think the fact that the committee has consistently ranked Oregon ahead of Texas and a Washington win would be better than an Oklahoma win, I think that keeps them ahead in the horse race, right?
Yeah, I 100% agree there. I try not to take like too much from these weekly rankings released just because, as we said, they're a little bit for entertainment. But I do think that the consistency of that and Oregon just remaining number 6 its entire time while seeing its main competition left on the schedule get, as I said, bumped up to number 4. I think that's showing at least a little bit of respect for the Pac-12, and I think ultimately that the Ducks would get in over a Texas, even if Texas is back. I think that would be a pretty fun narrative for the playoff to be able to push too. But I think ultimately, Oregon's got a better resume, and if you just watch, I don't want to turn into this guy, but if you just watch the games, man, I think it's pretty clear to see that Oregon is a better team than Texas. I know that the Longhorns have put together a good season, but they're not just running away with games like the Ducks have been. I mean, that's the thing. It's just like, I know you can talk about how, it might not be a whole list of top 25 wins that the Ducks have had, but they've done exactly what you would want to see them do against a schedule that's not top 25 teams. Like, they've just been killing everybody, and I think that should count for something.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 Corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Look, I-5 Corridor means a lot of things. Oregon State, obviously, on the I-5 Corridor as well. About 7 miles off of the I-5 Corridor, but you know what? They get on there, and it's obviously a huge part of this rivalry. So I want to bring up the Beavs a little bit, Tyson. You were there in 2017 in that scrum where Willie Taggart was asked, "Are you going to be the coach at Oregon?" And he dropped, "Why wouldn't I be?" And it became internet fodder for years and years and years. I don't know, were you on the Zoom? Were you on the Zoom 2 years ago when the mysterious Mario Cristobal, what potential airport he's sitting in, what hostage video is he making? Were you on that Zoom?
Oh yeah. That was one of my. I think that was my all-time favorite pre-bowl game press conference, where Bob Stoops knew exactly what was happening in that situation too, and he just seemed to be reveling in it.
So you've been there on the Zoom for Cristobal, in the scrum for Willie Taggart. You've seen this a handful of times. There's no real good answer to give, right? If you're Jonathan Smith, who was asked by Canzano yesterday about Michigan State, there is no perfect answer unless you're going to do like a Dan Lanning Jordan Belfort, right? Wolf of Wall Street, like, I'm not bleeping leaving. Other than that, there's really no easy way to do it. I don't know. I'm sure you saw the comments that Jonathan Smith had yesterday with old JC. What were your thoughts? Is it just honesty, which is refreshing? Was it interesting, eyebrow raising? What were your thoughts?
I think Jonathan might have kind of backed himself into a corner by just having this reputation of being like the nice and honest coach. You know what I mean? Like that. I think everyone is aware of the potential situation that's coming around. Oregon State isn't going to be playing in a Power 5 conference next year. They might lose a lot of their funding. They might not just have the future that somebody like Jonathan Smith and the ceiling of his coaching career might envision. So it makes sense that there are these rumors swirling, and especially with how good he's been for the past 4 or 5 years. That being said, like you're 4 days away from the Civil War. I think that we've learned in college football, like, you can lie. Like, you can just say, like, hey, I am all in on the Civil War this week. I'm all in on this game. Like, go Beavs. I just thought it was like his comments about, like, yeah, my agent better be working for me. It was remarkably candid, and I'm kind of thoughtful for Jonathan in that position, because I think he's obviously seen how this has gone for the Oregon coaches in the past, and he has so much invested into this university. He played there. He's turned the program around. He has them as a top 20 team right now. But yeah, his agent better be doing the job, apparently. And I just, if I'm an Oregon State fan and I listen to that, and it's not like the emphatic, like, why would I ever leave like this is my forever home? Not that I would expect Jonathan Smith to say that, because I think he's earned the right to pursue other things if he wanted to. But yeah, if you're an Oregon State fan and you want to ask an Oregon fan, like, how does this grade on the scale of, like, is he going to stay here forever? I wouldn't be feeling too great today if I was a Beavers fan.
All right, Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor. We got Thanksgiving tomorrow. I believe as you grow up and become an adult, at least you got to have one thing that, like, is your Thanksgiving thing, whether you have the signature cocktail, whether you are like my thing. I'm the turkey guy, right? I make the turkey. I got a pretty good method, so I'm going to be in charge of the turkey this weekend. What's your thing? What are you looking forward to tomorrow?
I'm a pretty good cook, Justin, but Thanksgiving, I don't really have, like, I'm always just kind of a passenger for Thanksgiving. That's where I haven't really grown up yet. It's kind of still like you show up at family, and you immediately transport to a place where you're 17 years old and all you want to do is eat food and watch football. But I'm a traditionalist. I'm a big turkey guy. I like my mashed potatoes. I like a little bit of the cranberry. It's got to be the fake stuff, though, out of the can. I'm a simple man on Thanksgiving.
It is funny because, like, for years and years and years, like, I did that. Like, you go back home, like, you're a grown adult with, like, with rent or a mortgage and all that, and then you go back home and you're like, all right, so, Mom, you gonna do my laundry? And we got snacks in the fridge. The only thing that's better, though, than when you were 17, and again, I don't know what it was like in the Alger household, but, like, the only thing that's better is, like, you can, like, openly crack a beer and nobody looks sideways at you. Like, that's the best part.
Yeah. There is, like, a little difference, though, between, like, you're 17 and you're sneaking a beer, and, like, you're kind of, like, trying to hide that when you open it. And then, but you also don't want to be like that first guy at 38 years old at Thanksgiving. It was like cracking the one before, like, the first kickoff on the Thursday morning. So, you still have similar experiences throughout different times of life, and that's really what the holidays are all about.
Well, I am 44, and I will unapologetically be the first one to crack one tomorrow. I know that for a 100% certainty that I will be the first. By the way, I've never done that at the movie theater, fake sneeze. Oh, like, never done that ever. Don't do that, kids, either. But they don't go to movie theaters anymore. It's going to be a beautiful day on Friday down at Autzen Stadium. A beautiful time for some football. It's going to be cold. Tyson's going to be in short sleeves, mocking us with our layered up methods. But either way, Tyson, have a terrific Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday. Enjoy the game this weekend. We look forward to talking to you soon, bud.
Hey, absolutely. Absolutely to you too. Happy Thanksgiving to you and everyone at the radio station. And let's enjoy this weekend.
Everyone at the radio station? Yeah, like everyone?
Everyone at the radio station. We're all just going to have a good time and enjoy, and we're just going to enjoy the weekend.
You're the best, Tyson. Have a good one, bud.
Yeah, wait a minute.
All right, there you go, Tyson. Look at that. Thankful for, camaraderie and everyone at the station. 100%. Definitely not excluding anyone, which that's why Tyson's a good man. All right, we have got. Do people understand what we're talking about? Do you think they get it? I think so. All right, we've got the RCM mailbag. We got to wrap up the big show next. 620 Rip City Radio. We still have one more segment to do before we wrap up the big show and get ready for the extended weekend. And for that, it is time for the RCM mailbag. Here we go.
Like blackberry cobbler,
Peach cobbler.
yeah, like we make a blackberry tart at our house that's pretty good.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
Yeah, stuff like that. As long as it's, like just not cheap. Like I say that, Justin, in the sense of like, I remember in like elementary school or middle school, there'd be times when like this week, back before the kids got what they got now, which is the whole week off, which is just...
Have they get more than a week off now?
Well,
we don't talk about it. We're not
Portland kids.
Don't need people outside of my house yelling at me. All right, I don't have any kids. All right, don't come to my house yelling at me.
But no, like when I grew up, Justin,
check my route home real quick. Make sure I can get over a bridge.
better be careful.
But we're not. We're thankful today, Brendan. We're not.
Okay, there you go. But no, like growing up, it was, I remember when it was just when the Civil War had started to get moved to Thanksgiving week, and that was about the time I was in middle school, elementary school. We'd do the Oregon State canned food drive week, and whoever brought in, the canned food drive, then on Wednesday, if the Beavers won, then everybody got to wear Beaver jerseys because you normally couldn't wear jerseys. If the Ducks won, then you got to wear Duck jerseys, Duck hats, all that. But, yeah, like I just remember, it's like, hey, we're having our Wednesday half-day Thanksgiving Day party, and here's 7 pumpkin pies that the teacher went and got.
The best.
And they were
the best.
They just felt cheap. They just felt cheap.
Even as like a 9-year-old, you were still like snooty about desserts.
Yeah, well, Hey, there is no
The 9-year-old Brenda's like, hey, you couldn't even make the crust, huh,
it's
Mrs.
true.
Johnson?
I mean, again,
like that's the best you could come up with.
My old parents did a grand job of making sure that I would never want something or never eat something I didn't like. Justin.
I will say this. What we did in elementary school to celebrate Thanksgiving, I totally get canceled. Totally
Makes sense.
Problematic stuff that we used to do, but it was the 80s, okay? It was a different time.
It was the 80s.
It was the 80s, but yeah, pictures surfaced of like what we did on Thanksgiving. I'm totally canceled. Totally be canceled. But either way, we're trying
Did
our
you
best.
guys get to wear hats
No.
in school or anything like that?
Not at all. No
Yeah.
hats allowed. Not till high school. All right. That's going to do it for the big show. Thanks to super producer Brendan. And thanks to Tyson Alger. And along with Tyson Alger, Devon Pouncey, Mike Parker, Aaron Fentress, Chad, anybody else who takes time out of their day to join us on the show, I am so incredibly thankful to all of you. Anybody that listens to this show or live streams it and takes any time out of your day to hang out with us goofballs, again, so incredibly thankful to all of you. Thankful for super producer Brendan. Look, it's a crazy life we're living. We're just cruising around, goofing off about football, and I'm incredibly thankful for, again, all of you, all the guests, all the people that work on this particular program and this particular station.